Hey again everyone, and welcome back to the channel after frankly what was a much longer than anticipated hiatus. But we're back with another installment in our ongoing new figure showcase series. And if you're new to the channel, this is where I usually take a look at a new edition of the collection and do a quick review and share some observations. And more often than not, these are going to be newer figures. So for today's episode, we'll be taking a look at the Thunder Toys Phantom, which is essentially the third-party version of Ghost from Antman and the Wasp. Now the character will be making her return in the upcoming Thunderbolts movie, but I do appreciate that we now have an opportunity to pick up the character from that first appearance. I'm guessing Hot Toys didn't see much demand or popularity for this one, so that's the one thing that I do appreciate when it comes to third party, and it's just that ability to fill in a gap in my collection with some characters that no one else is making. Although that also does more often than not come with a bit of a caveat, which is it is third party. So with a few exceptions, you do have to be prepared and aware that you're not getting the same level of quality you get from the likes of Hot Toys, Blitzway, Damn Toys, and so on. It's more on par with, say, the 3-Zeros of the world. And in today's market with so many choices, that is something to genuinely consider when making your purchasing decisions. So as far as character goes, I like Ghost. I thought she was a highlight in Antman and the Wasp and appreciated the phasing power and the backstory. And from a visual perspective, I like the look of that suit, particularly the helmeted version. So let's take a very quick look at what we're getting here from Thunder Toys. And what you'll see is we're not getting much. You get the figure itself, the second mask sculpt, some spare hands, and a display stand. So not much at all. Fairly standard for third-party releases, to be honest. So as you would expect, this should be a relatively quick review. So let's get into the additional hands quickly. They aren't exactly gripping hands, but they're posed in a slightly more closed-handed look. Nothing dramatically different from the pre-equipped hands on the figure. Detail-wise, they're actually pretty good. The glove itself is a nice gray with armored bits at the fingertips and armored plating at the back of the hand, and there is some inlaid sculpted textured elements that match some of her suit components, so I do have to give credit to this company for doing that. Overall, there's a dark wash to this that gives it a slightly weathered, dirty look that might be a little bit overdone. So now let's jump into the figure, and we'll start with the Unmasked sculpt. And where to start with this? Alright, so first of all, again, third party, and you get what you pay for. Really, there are things third party does well, and sometimes they do deliver decent sculpts. Here, I just don't see the likeness to the actress at all. And to me, it comes down to the eyes. First of all, they're very lifeless. Not at all what you see from a Hot Toys figure. And of course, given the price difference, just something to be expected. But again, I just don't see the likeness. The hair isn't bad, but in a world of artisan and in-art-rooted hair releases, it's more reminiscent of earlier Hot Toys efforts. So while it looks okay, it's very doll-like. And even the hair color is a little bit wrong, as the ends of her hair should be lighter, almost blonde, like they were in the movie. And look, while it's straight hair in the movie, it almost has too much volume on the figure. It's not atrocious, but I just don't see the likeness, and it's just very third-party feeling. Now, you do get the mask look, which I think is 100% the saving grace for this figure. And as an added note, there is a collar piece that connects to the neck for the unmasked sculpt to show the helmet essentially pulled down. So I think Thunder Toys deserves some credit for that. But going back to the mask sculpt, it's deceivingly simple looking. The mask itself is just gray with some detailed lines and the red lenses, which are a great replica of what we saw on screen. The hood itself is a softer plastic, and the big highlight for me has to be the rubber-like texture simulated fabric on the sides. There is a nice sculpted groove pattern throughout that does make it seem like fabric, almost like chainmail of sorts. Lenses are okay, but the paint job on this is just a little sloppy, and you do see some bleed on the lenses and on the wash within the sculpted lines where the paint has just bled out. You really have to look closely to spot this, but it's not surprising again for an unlicensed product. But for me, that helmeted sculpt is the key for this figure. So now looking at the rest of the figure, I have to say this could have been a home run. It really could have, because it's good in so many ways. But I think you're all probably seeing the one jarring thing that I saw out of the box, and that's that the sleeves and the legs have this very distinct pink color to the suit. The movie suit, I don't recall being pink at all, and for movie stills and clips, it's just different grays and whites, but no pink at all. So that was something surprising out of the box. Having the figure in hand for a little, I've started to look beyond it to appreciate the rest of the details, but I mean, it's not something you can ignore. I just don't know where Thunder Toys got the idea from, which is a shame because, like I said, the rest of the suit is pretty decent. She has the chest armor that has a similar pattern that's on the helmet. Posability is decent as well, and the gauntlets and torso area all have some good detailing. The boots and the leg armor are also good, with some with that level of detail and continuing. Although the biggest issue with all of those components is, again, that paint bleed. It feels like they wanted to make the figure look a little bit weathered, but I don't know that Ghost needed that. The rest of the suit is more screen printed elements that work, but it's just that pink that is so... It's just not screen accurate at all, and it just really stands out, which is a major complaint here. So it's interesting because I'm not really a fan of the unmasked sculpt at all, and I think the figure is saved by the helmeted sculpt, which gives you that great look from the movie, and gets Ghost in the collection as a great companion to Wasp and Antman. And I would say this was an excellent release at that point, but the biggest issue as you look at the poses and the real flexibility you get, or beyond the real flexibility you get with this figure, is just that pink hue to the suit. Again, not sure if that was something that happened during the production process. It seems to be something they did on purpose, though, when you consider how evident the offset is. I kept watching scenes again from the movie and looking at pictures of the suit on display, and it just looks wrong. So where do I stand, even with these issues? I think the figure's decent. Won't tell you it's perfect because it clearly isn't, but it's decent for what it is. A third-party figure release. But for me, this is where these companies serve a purpose, and that's in giving us characters we wouldn't get otherwise. Yes, they aren't Hot Toys level figures, but they're decent companion pieces. And honestly, when are we going to get this version of Ghost again? We know she's making her return in Thunderbolt, so if that movie is successful, we may get her from that movie from Hot Toys, but it won't be this suit. So this fills a void in my collection and gives me a new Marvel character in 6 scale. So again, I might be approaching this from a biased perspective, but like I said, it's okay for a third-party figure, but clearly not the best figure. It just works for me. So those are my quick thoughts on the figure. Hope you found that somewhat informative, but let me know your thoughts on this one, and as always, thanks for watching, and we'll touch base on the next one.